Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm going to be testing Routine on Steam Deck, thanks to Raw Fury for providing a code of the game. So if we go to the game info, it's marked as playable, and it says some in-game text is small and may be difficult to read, and requires manual configuration of graphics settings to perform well on Steam Deck. So that's what we're going to see today. By default, it's at Proton 10.0-3, so we're going to be using that one. This is a UE5 game. Let's check out the options menu, shall we? Alright, so once you are into the game, go into display 800p. Unfortunately, we don't have 1152 by 720 or any of that. If you want to use 16 by 9, you can also do 720 for a bit extra performance, but I want to use the entire screen, so 800p. Unlock frame rates, at least right now. Graphics, I basically put it like this. Texture streaming on false, otherwise many textures are going to be blurry. It happened on my PC as well. Low effects, low post-processing and low shadows, high textures, ambient occlusion, and in my opinion motion blur, I don't like it, so I turned it off. TAA, no anti-aliasing or FXAA. In this case, TAA seems to be the most consistent looking one. So something like this, at least in my opinion. I want to thank Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Instant Gaming is a website to get cheaper games for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. First of all, we got Arc Raiders for $33.24 US, Skate Story for $15.68. Also games that are not out yet, such as 007 First Light with early access for $58.12 US. And you can also find Skyrim Anniversary Edition, which is the game with all the DLC plus mods for $15. And every month we're giving away one free game to one of you guys from Instant Gaming. Hit participate, follow myself and Instant Gaming in social media for a chance to win. Thanks again to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Let's continue. It requires a lot of attention, especially when interacting with screens and all that. So the text, I agree with Valve, can feel a little bit small on the Steam Deck screen. Sometimes you need to look at things very closely and the text might be difficult to read. So I just get closer to the screens to be able to see them. Okay, this is a tutorial. Stretch your body to the left. So they teach you right bumper left and you can do that. I mean, this works with the Steam Deck just fine. At least when it comes to the controls, you can lean left and right. The release form, yeah. Everything's okay, finish, and we print our ID so we can get out of here. Print ID, so it's going to print it. But as you can see, it's all stuff from the environment. So let's grab the ID, and it falls. So you gotta crouch with what you just learned and grab it, which I found very interesting. The first time I saw it fall, I didn't know what to do. But the game doesn't tell you what to do. You gotta read stuff like this, but you can make it bigger and read it better. Okay. So we open the gate. And as you can see, at least here, with all the shadow stuff and the reflections and all, it all stays there. It's screen space and it's pretty dark. This is perfect for the OLED Steam Deck actually, just due to the sheer darkness of this game in many places. But with the settings that I chose, which is basically low with ambient occlusion on, you still have great graphics, but I'll lock it to 40 FPS. I saw people recommending 60 FPS and all that, but I think 40 makes a lot more sense. Maybe even do 1280 by 720. But 40 is a good target for this one, at least in my opinion. So we interact with screens. For what I'm seeing here, honestly, it doesn't seem to have lumen. Maybe nanite is in effect, but lumen doesn't seem to be here. Seems to be more static lighting, backlighting, better said. Because environments don't have a lot of interactability when it comes to moving objects. So yeah, it seems to be mostly backlighting, which is a good thing. We don't need forced ray tracing in a game where the environments are not going to change that much. And also the moon doesn't move. I'm actually in the moon. I'm in the sun. So, oh, I need a battery for my gun. That is also like my Wi-Fi connection. I know it sounds weird, but it'll make sense in a moment. Let's grab a battery. There we go. So now we have a gun, quote unquote, and this is what drops performance the most. Why does this happen? Well, this is a picture-in-picture thing. Like when you have a scope in Resident Evil 4 Remake that drops frames like crazy. This is the same thing. It's a very low resolution render texture, but it's still pretty demanding of an effects to have. And that's basically the point that I'm trying to make about locking it to 40. Because when you shoot an enemy, you're going to have those effects close to the camera, and it'll drop some frames. So with that 40 FPS cap, you should have a more consistent experience in general. As I was saying, everything is very analog. So let's connect using our gun, and you can save your progress very easily. But as you can see, everything is direct interaction, and there is some blur to the cursor, but again, it's supposed to be old computers. But you can read it, you just need to get closer. It's kind of annoying if you played it on PC on a big screen, but that's what I noticed on the smaller screen on Steam Deck. So yeah, running around and doing all that, it's good. The thing is, when you use the picture-in-picture pistol here, and you shoot an enemy, it can be pretty noticeable. But overall, the game is looking pretty good and performing way better than I expected. Remember that this is without any upscaling. This game doesn't have any. It only has native resolution, so native resolution, 40s on a Steam Deck on a UE5 game. I think that's pretty impressive, all things considered. Alright, so now we're in handheld, and I locked it to 40 FPS using the Steam Deck's side menu. This one. So on the OLED it will be like that. On the LCD you can do the same thing, but if you own the OLED version of the Steam Deck, make sure to go into Adjust Gamma, and using the right stick you can move this slider and put it at the minimum. The game doesn't seem to have an HDR option so far. Otherwise it looks washed out in very dark environments such as this one, which is kind of the point of the game, really, being a super dark environment. So yeah, it works pretty damn well like this. And as you can see, we're at 40 FPS with some drops into the upper 30s. But the thing is, when you do the picture-in-picture thing with that weapon that you're going to be using throughout the entire game, so keep that in mind. In database, we're going to see the code. The code is 5814. Okay, 4854. I think I got it wrong the first time. No, I forgot. 5814. This is the correct one now. But as you can see, there's a lot of interaction with the world environments, not UIs like in most games, which I found pretty damn interesting, at least personally. It's not like I have an inventory and open a menu. I have to select everything from one of those menus, like that. When it comes to UE5 games, this one does have loading screens, separating zones, pretty often. And I notice a minor stutter when the new zone lands, like 2 seconds. Nothing major, at least in my opinion. But the game looks pretty damn sharp when it comes to the screens, at least. There's ghosting in some elements when moving them. But overall, it's been completely fine. At least when it comes to a UE5 game on Steam Deck, this is native resolution at the end of the day. It does have chromatic aberration and some distortion that you cannot turn off, but again, it's kind of the visual art style of the game. So let's open this gate. Again, the game didn't tell me how to do any of this. I kind of figured it out on my own. As you could see there, when I shot the weapon, I got a spike in the frame time. Again, that's because you got the picture-in-picture thing on the gun that is very demanding, and then the shot is effects on screen. So you put a picture-in-picture plus that at the same time, and you get a drop in performance. Okay, once again, this one. Let's connect to that screen. And now we can save, see the tasks and all that, and the database for the code. And yeah, I mean, it's a very slow-paced horror game. It's more of a mix of Soma and Alien Isolation, at least in my opinion. When it comes to the Steam Deck, yeah, we're borderline 40 FPS, at least with these settings. You can increase it a little bit when it comes to performance by lowering it to 720. So choose 16 by 9 instead of 16 by 10. But the issue with 16 by 9 is that the text is even smaller, as you can probably notice right now. But you get those black bars as well at the top and bottom of the screen. So yeah, text is even smaller at 16 by 9, but you get closer to that 40 FPS target. So yeah, that can make a difference, at least when it comes to performance. Instead of the upper 30s, you're in the low 40s more consistently. Okay, and now we're in a very dark environment, and this will be the norm for most of the game, at least what I played so far. On the smaller screen, it does look fantastic, I gotta say. And there's also screen space reflections with this setting either way, so that's not a problem. But again, reading the small text is a problem. The arrow, the up arrow on your controller, the D-pad, but it's hard to read, especially at 16 by 9. So let's go back to 800p. Okay, so now it's time to connect to this other screen with my gun. It sounds weird to say it, but hey. Yeah, it's very hard to read, but again, with zooming in using the D-pad, I can actually read the text. So hey, better than nothing. There we go. It read me. Diagnostics process has completed with errors. Oh yeah, you have to turn it off and on again, like in real life. We turn it off, back on. Yeah, I'm not making that up. You guys helped me figure it out on the live stream when I played it on PC, which I found pretty funny. And let's take the elevator. Again, apologies for the reflection on the screen. Very dark games are easier to have reflections on when I'm using the camera. So log in your ID. Well, my ID is in my chest. It's 9652. But yeah, I love that sort of thing that they're doing. 9652. Okay, there we go. But that interactability really sells the simulation and the, how to say it, the immersion in this game. It's a big deal, at least in my opinion. Very few games do stuff like this. It was very confusing at first, but then you get the hang of it and start playing like they intended. And now a robot will chase me. This is the first time you see a robot in the game. So I can show you combat very quickly. Which again is very hard to see on that screen. You can zoom in if you want to, like this. It's still pixelated. But there's some frame rate drops when attacking the enemy like that. You don't kill him, so keep that in mind. You just disable it for a few seconds, so you can run away and hide. But the game does look pretty damn good. Again, for a UE5 to run at 40-ish FPS on native resolution on Steam Deck, in my opinion, that's a big deal. And again, let's connect to a screen. And we can save. Perfect. But again, it all works perfectly fine. Let's see more combat. Yeah, there it drops into the 30s when I shoot him. He's creepy AF. But when you're not shooting, it's all good. The thing is that picture-in-picture effect of the gun. And now I'm out of power on my weapon, so I cannot shoot. Anyway, that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see ya next time. Bye, guys.